You. So, still late, but we the boys got done their week one matches a couple hours ago, and I thought I'd do the standings for week one, which are right here on your screen, and then I'd do a little tier list going into week two of who I think the best team is. So, just to recap, the Queen City Quaxleys and the Carolina Conkelders both lost both their games on Saturday and today Sunday. Uh, the Hartsville Hitmontops to the Minans. They won. They won one and lost one. And me and the Dragon Knights are. We are the only undefeated teams coming out of week one. So as you can see, it's pretty intense. Two teams are undefeated. Two teams are defeated, and half the league is this. So it's pretty good. You know, it's very interesting to see how some newer players to the scene and some people have a little bit more experience are dealing with it, and I think it's really cool. Um, I'm just glad there's not 4-2-0s and 4-0-2s. I'm glad it's like this. So week one is definitely fun, definitely hype. Yeah. So on to the tier list. Who I think the best teams are coming out of week one. Um, I'm probably gonna start in last and go up just because I think that's more interesting. Um, so let me do that. Alright. So in last place, well, they are standing there too. I think. I think. I think Preston probably played the worst in week one. Um, he brought the Gardevoir Swoobat strat both games, and it didn't really work the way he wanted it to. Um, Granted, again, game two against Chase, the Hitmontops, he did manage to get a reverse sweep by tracing the speed boost on Yon Mega and getting his Calm Mind up. That was massive. I think that was huge, but compared to the other teams, I think he definitely underperformed the most and definitely definitely played the worst. That's not to obviously make fun of him or shit on him, but I think just compared to the other coaches, I think he definitely just played the worst. So we have Preston in eighth. Number seven, we have the Arizona Ash Ketchums. Um, he played. Chris played very well in his first game against Preston, the Conkelders, but against the Yampers today, he would have won game one, but he clicked Trick Room and it allowed Ampharos to outspeed his Cresselia and win the 1v1. So that choke alone, I think, is worthy of this. But his performance against the Conkelders definitely solidified that it was a very close game, but he came out on top. So I think that solidifies him in number seven going into week number two. I think seventh is definitely a good place to put. Going into number six, I think it's the Ampers. Um, while his record is better than the Quaxleys, um, his match against the Dragon Knights was an absolute shitfest. He got bozoed really hard, and his set today against the Ash Ketchums, he did manage to 2-0, which is pretty big, but it he only 2-0'd off of the choke with the Trick Room. In game two, he had that game won like 10 moves in, but he stalled out the game himself by not clicking knockoff with the Absol and just didn't end the game quick enough. It just I don't know, he looked a little lost. So until he gets some more practice in, I think number 6 is definitely the way to go. So for number 5, oh man, it's tough. Number 5, I have to go the Queen City Quaxleys. Uh, Granted, his first 2 matches were against the Minans and the Dragonites, which are pretty hard games, but he hard choked against, well, not hard choked, but he misclicked game 3, game on the line, accidentally clicked through instead of bullet punch, and lost the set against the Minans. And while he did manage to 6-0 turn 1 in his set against the Dragonites today, he failed to get that same pressure off in the second and third game, which led him to lose. So he came out swinging for sure. Very competitive sets. I think he definitely had the hardest week 1 out of anyone in the league, having to play the top 2 seeded drafts on the tier list going into the week 1. So definitely had the hardest week. He didn't play bad at all, but failing to get either win, definitely tough to see. Going into number 4, we have the Hartsville Hitmontops with Chase. Uh, he over-prepped for my Gyarados when he faced me on Saturday, which just let Victini run through him like an absolute demon. Victini got 4 kills in both games, so that was very tough to see. But his game today against the Conkelders, he really solidified himself. He got 2 massive, like I said going into it, it was going to be a very hyper offensive game, and he really brought the pressure. It was good to see. Really good to see. Um, he asserted his dominance. He got the win that he needed, and yeah, I think he played well. I think these two, you could. Oh, let me go back. You could argue the Quaxley's going over the Hitmontops, but the sole fact that the Quaxleys failed to get a win in either game, the Hitmontops managed to get a win. Yeah, that's why Hitmontops are going number 4. Number 3, it's gonna be the Monroe Minans. Um, he had a very good set against JC, the Quaxleys, but let's be honest here, the only reason he won that set was because JC misclicked on the very last turn of the set. So, not to take anything away from Tanner, but that's definitely something to think about. And then our game today, he beat me game 1. It was very close. It came down to 6%. If my Jolteon hit a little bit harder, I would have swept. But alas, the rocks weren't up, so he lived 1 Thunderbolt. He won 1-0 in game 1. Then in game 2 and 3, he really failed to kill my Gyarados. I just kind of substituted in front of the Claydol the entire set, and he couldn't do anything. 2 crunches brought the emergency exit on Golisopod, so he couldn't do anything. So, yeah. And also, he could have beat me, but he did not know that dark types are immune to Prankster, so I was able to come in with Klefki and defog away the Aurora Veil every time for free. So, that was something. Um, so yeah, just a mis little uneducated on the prankster thing, which I don't blame him for. Doesn't have a lot of competitive experience or draft, so again, um, that's very like niche tech to know about. But if he did know about it, he could have definitely beat me. But alas, not knowing it caused him to lose, and Gyarados just kind of ran through him. So definitely tough. He had 2 very hard games against the Quaxleys and me, so but managing to get the one over the Quaxleys definitely solidifies him in third. And number 2, I'm gonna give it to the Delaware Dragonites. And the only reason I'm putting him number two, like the only reason I'm putting myself over him, is because he got 6-0 turn one against it for Alligator. Um, JC kind of just like let it go. Like he led for Alligator, and he had his Aerodactyl with Sash. Like I don't know. I think that was a very obvious Dragon Dance setup, but he opted to go for the Stealth Rocks, and it costed him to lose the entire game in like 9 turns. So because literally just because of that, I think I deserve number one. I think that's pretty fair. Um, I think I definitely played the best. I think my game against the Hitmontops, I definitely asserted my dominance. Um, Showed that my prep was better, and I understood the counter matchup better. And in my game against the Minans, while I did manage to lose game one, I used that more of like an intel to see of all the items and sets with Ditto and just playing it through, seeing what all the Pokemon he had, like what items they held, and then game two and three, I think they were pretty easy for me to win once I got the intel I needed. So, um, yeah, I don't think I made some pretty massive misplays in the first set. In the first game of the set against the Minans, I predicted him to switch out turn one because I didn't think he'd want to eat a Shadow Ball on his Claydol to get two shot. So, um, he had an Earth Power and got Jolteon down to 30% health, and then he Future Sighted, and then my Gyarados came in, and then that went down to 40% health. So I started the fight basically 2 months down, and I almost managed to climb my way up and win. So while I did fuck up super hard the first like 2 to 4 turns, I almost managed to come back and win, which is something considering that was a pretty massive deficit. But coming back in the set and winning pretty dominantly game two and three, I think that really solidified my win. I think that solidifies me as number one. But yeah, reg- while this is the standings with the Conkelders last and the Dragon Knights first, well, I mean we're tied and they're tied. I definitely think this is the tier list going into week two. Um, Conkelders just struggling to find their footing. Uh, Definitely a heavier reliance on the swoop back Gardevoir strat. A lot of teams are gonna be looking at it, looking out for it for the rest of the season. So I don't anticipate to see it much going into further into the season. Um, the Ash Ketchums just misplays all around. Obviously nothing to really blame him for. He's brand new to Pokemon, competitive, brand new to Draft League, so definitely just needs a little bit more experience, and I think he can definitely climb up to number five or number four towards the end of the season. The Ampers, same thing as the Ash Ketchums, really just inexperience and just learning when you have a lead, how to use it, and when to pressure certain mounts with certain moves. He had Toxic on his Slowking, and it was in front of a Cresselia, and he didn't click Toxic the entire set. And he also forgot to give his Tapu Koko a fourth move, which is yeah, running 3 moves on a Pokemon. Never thought I'd say that in a league, but yeah. Just overall, just inexperienced, but like I said, definitely could see him moving up towards the higher part. Again, the top six teams will be making playoffs, so I definitely think the Yampers and Ketchums can get up there. Same with the Conkelders. Really, just these bottom three, they are really, really competing for that top six, and I think it's going to be very cool to see going into further in the season. The Quaxleys probably the hardest week one you could ask for, going up against the Minans and the Dragonites. Um, Choking the Minans set definitely hurts their scoreboard. He's definitely going to want that revenge match later in the season whenever he fights them, so that's something to look out for. But Quaxleys, while they did lose 0-2, their sets did not reflect that. He was very dominant, played very well, just fell short, and yeah, that's what it comes down to. He just fell short, couldn't win. Uh, Hitmontops, I had a pretty bad set against me. Um, But against the Conkelders, he just hard swept them out, hyper offensed them. That set was pretty, pretty bad. I mean, getting reverse swept by the Gardevoir, tracing the speed boost, and him bug buzzing a Landorus instead of air slashing it is definitely cringe. Definitely not what he needed to do. But again, inexperienced to the comp, inexperienced draft. He didn't. I'm assuming he thought ground resisted flying, but again, that's just something that'll come with time and more experience. So, um, I could make the argument Quaxly's go over Hitmontops for the sole reason that Hitmontops at least got one and the Quaxly's didn't. That's why I have Hitmontops in number 4. Minans, um, again, they kind of just. I'm really not trying to take anything away from Tanner, but the misclick of the century, I'll call it. Misclick of the century. But again, he did put himself in the position to win at least, so had a good set against the Quaxleys. Probably the closest set we had all weekend. Probably my MVP set that I had for week 1. And then failing to have a good switch in or counter to my Gyarados really messed him up. And not knowing about the Prankster Dark type matchup really messed him up too. He definitely could have put a lot of pressure on me every time brought in Klefki, but he didn't know about it. So now that he knows about that, he definitely will be a lot larger with it going into further in the season. Dragonites, all around solid play. Not much to really look at besides getting, 6-0 swept turn 1. So yeah, when you see someone lead a setup sweeper turn 1, you should probably just try to kill them. They probably just wanna 6-0 you. So again, Dragonites played really well besides that, but that 6-0 definitely not something that Jake wants to remember. And me, number 1, call me biased. I don't give a fuck. I didn't get 6-0'd, and in my sets, I played pretty dominantly. So that's where I'm putting myself. If you don't like it, you're gonna have to deal with it. So that's these are the standings, and this is a tier list. So if you don't like it, El Bozo. If you do like it, cool. I'll probably upload the pick'ems tomorrow or later in the week. So yeah, this is the standings and tier list going into week 2. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and peace.